sometimes we're at a crossroads and we don't always have to pick like which path. Not one path is better than the others. Like sometimes we can sit. You can sit. You can be. You can consider.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the ADHD Eavesdrop, where you can be a butterfly on the wall and listen in on my conversations. Today on the show, we have Emily Cox, and I'm really excited to talk to her today, but I'm going to let her tell us in her own words a little bit about herself. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Janine. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm Emily. It's so exciting to talk with you and your audience. I'm a licensed therapist focusing on treating trauma and working with neurodivergent individuals. I love supporting preteens, teens, and new adults through life transitions and discovering themselves. I also love incorporating expressive arts and creative interventions. Sometimes some things outside of traditional talk therapy can connect better with our specific needs. And I love helping people kind of come out of their shell and explore their inner strengths.
Beautiful. Hey, I like all those things too. That's great. Now, of course, I myself am a lover of the arts
Mhm.
and of all things creative. I draw, I paint, I act, just all the fun things that are creative.
Mhm.
And so when you talk about using that type of thing with your clients, my ears just went ding.
Mhm.
Can you tell me more?
Yeah, totally. So the modalities that I use are mainly expressive arts therapies. They're different than art therapy. Both things are wonderful and incredible and do lovely things. Art therapy is kind of more about the analysis of the art, so kind of about like what this line is and what this color is and what does this mean and what does this do. Expressive arts focuses more on the creative process itself. So it's not looking at like the end result or like analyzing everything that happened, but more of like how we felt in the creation and like how we connect to the end creation that we made. So it's more process than product. It can be really helpful, especially with neurodivergent brains, because neurodivergent brains process information differently than neurotypical folks, right? So sometimes like pieces of information are getting integrated differently, or there's different filters or things at play. So kind of activating the creative process can be really helpful, of kind of like filtering out all of the noise or all of the stimulation and being like, yes, I like this, or like, no, this is really stressful and overwhelming for me and I don't like this. So it can be helpful to kind of like exercise our brain muscles in a different way.
I'm speechless right now because I'm getting ready. I'm not
Mhm.
ready yet, but I'm very close to releasing a series on my YouTube channel about um, meditative intuitive drawing,
Mhm.
where we focus on the process, not the product.
Right.
Everything that you just said, and I'm just like, oh, I love to hear this. And
Mhm.
I discovered it by accident. I had lost the use of my right hand
Mhm.
with the surgery, couldn't do anything, got bored, started drawing with my left hand, and never expected to come out with anything good,
Right.
right? So with that pressure off to do it well, I really focused on the process and I realized
Mhm.
that all that noise and all that chaos and all that crazy stuff that was going on in my brain all the time just quieted down and I was able to
Mhm.
focus. It's
It's magical.
amazing. It's amazing. And so
Mhm.
the fact that you use that is, it just makes me so happy. It gives me little goosebumps all over.
All the universe, all the vibes happening. Yeah, I love it. Sometimes too, I bring up of like there's a fear of a blank page or like a fear of an expectation, or people are like, I always like I'm a very collaborative practitioner, so that like it's not like, no, you have to do this now, or like do this worksheet or else, or like you failed at your therapy homework, therefore you fail at therapy. Like I don't find that to be especially helpful for the clinician or the client. So like I'll always invite people to and join in an expressive arts practice, but like they don't have to, it's not a requirement. But a lot of the like resistance or kind of pushback that I experience is like, I suck at drawing. I'm bad at drawing. I don't like to draw. And I'm like, have we ever drawn without like focusing on what it needs to be at the end? Or that like the butterfly wing didn't turn out like we wanted it to, and so it's disgusting, so let me rip it up. But more focusing on like whatever comes out is what comes out. And it's about like the moment and mindfulness of the expression and not necessarily what happens at the end. a lot of expressive arts practices are also more focused on that like creative process and mindfulness and like kind of opening that flow for a tool for like intuitive connection versus like, okay, I need to make this tree exactly how the tree looks in my mind, and then that disconnect happening. It also can be just like a really great regulation tool of just like fun to do, but also of like, okay, when we get those feelings, when we get those sensations of like, I went outside the lines, I used the wrong color, that shade didn't turn out like I wanted to. Okay, is it a failure? Do we rip it up? Do we burn it? Do we get so mad at ourselves that we're like a total failure at all the things? Or do we go, okay, it went outside the lines. It's not the right color. Okay, what can I do next? What can I do with this? That then we're trying to like getting somewhere with it.
Right. And then you you start working on that process of
Mhm.
when you do a
Mhm.
something that you didn't really want or expect to have happen, and you can say, well, I can just turn that into a flower, or I
Right.
can just turn that into this or that
Mhm.
or whatever. And when you start to draw those parallels between experiences in our lives, when things don't turn out the way we always want them to,
Mhm.
how do we draw a flower?
And what we gain from it, what we connect from it, what we take from it. That like we don't have a choice over what happens externally, but like how we process it and how we interpret it, that we have a lot of power and choice in.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I would argue that we don't even have a lot of choice in what we're drawing when when we're drawing in this way.
Hmm.
It's whatever is coming up. And when you talked about the blank sheet being intimidating, I
Hmm.
always prep my paper with graphite first and do a smear on it
Hmm.
because of that
Right.
intimidation thing. So,
It takes
yeah.
away the fear a little bit of like, oh, it already has stuff on it.
So I'm really interested, like, because I know that you work with teens, kids, all of the different ages, but young adults for the most part,
Yeah.
um, or new adults, as you say. And I love that, new adults. That's very cool.
Mhm.
Do you use this with them?
Mhm.
And
I'll invite everyone to it. And then like across the developmental like spectrum of like humankind and like childhood, like it can be early it's really adaptable. Like it can be adapted to like any developmental range. So like if we're kind of more further into adulthood and like grasping with some like identity stuff or life stuff or like existential stuff, like it can be adapted to those needs. If we're more like elementary school, middle school, and it's just like my friends are being mean to me or like I keep forgetting my notebook at home. Like it can be adapted to those needs as well and like be more accessible kind of wherever it's at. It's kind of nice tool because it can be like dovetailed with the tools of like self-exploration and like identity exploration that like whatever we find in the creative process can be part of like our inner world, our inner selves too. So that it's not just like, okay, I did a thing, I did an art thing, and now we're never doing it again. It's like, oh, what's coming up for me? Or like, what am I feeling? What am I experiencing? What regulation tools can I try? What is helpful for me? What did I enjoy about this? What did I not enjoy about this? Those basic communication skills of just like, I like this, I don't like this. A lot of times we skim over those in life or in school or in things. Like, we're not as prepped with those skills. So just being like, yes, I like doing this. I want to do it more. I hated that. Don't ever make me do that again. Like, that's an essential tool right there.
or even to the point of I really like to draw curvy lines, but I'm not so much into points
Yeah.
and geometrics.
Hmm.
It's and you learn everything you just learn about yourself is and how do I want to say this? Anytime you can learn something about yourself, it's beneficial.
Hmm. Totally.
So I know that when we talked before we came on, we talked a
Hmm.
little bit about the fact that we have in common college kids.
Hmm.
So I'm curious what your take is on that age group and what you do and how and the kids that you work with.
Hmm. I love college kids or like college age kids. It's kind of why I really enjoy working with teenagers too, of like it's such a ripe area for like growth and exploration. It's also a time of like so many transitions and like overlapping things and expectations happening. So like sometimes living as a teenager is not the most fun thing in the world, or like living through your first 2 years of college is not like the most magical, exciting. Some people have it, good for them, but not for everybody. So like the experience of it might not be great, but like working with people in that experience is wonderful on my side as a clinician because there's like so many things happening and like there's so much development of inner voice and like what we want, what we don't want, what nourishes us, what like depletes us, what we're looking for. College especially is like there's so many transition points overlapping. So it's like we're getting away from family, we're getting away from home, we're getting away from like a home peer group, we're establishing a new peer group. All these expectations are different. Well, then there's like life stuff and my major and what am I going to do and doing job and doing this, but then I have this going on and then I have all these other things. Like there are so many things shifting. That's such a huge change from just like where we've been the first 18 years that like so many exciting things can come up from that. And with all of those like intersections and overlapping lines and stuff, there's like so many opportunities for life and for challenges and for, okay, like these things happen. I've never struggled with this before, but like now this thing is really hard. Well, I've
Mhm.
always had this go on, but like now this is so challenging.
And I wanted to just say, and after every one of those sentences, add, and I have ADHD.
Right. That too. Well, like I don't know if you've experienced this in your work, Janine, but like one thing I hear a lot for a lot of things is like either we get through high school and we like didn't have to study, we are very smart, we could get there, like we had systems in place that worked for us, but then we get to college and like those systems aren't working anymore. Or
Mhm.
like with a lot of those structures gone, a lot of my neurodivergent clients are like, I hate structure, don't make me do things, but it's like, well, I have to eat the same thing every time. Or if my dinner's off by 15 minutes, that means I have to sit in a quiet room and decompress and do so I'm like, it seems like we respond really well to structure and we have some difficulty with like externally imposed structure, but like internal structure might be really helpful for us. That's really hard to create on your own from scratch, especially when you've had it your whole like childhood life. So it's either like we got through high school and then we get to college and it's like, oh, this is not working anymore. Or like we really struggled in high school, like nothing was flowing, nothing was happening. With all of the like open doors of college experience or like first time job experience, it's like, oh wait, I got this. Oh wait, because you're not making me sit in a quiet room for like 90 minutes of class, I can like do this now. Oh, I can like have music on while I study. Oh, I get like got this figured out. But even
Have
that's
you
like, this
had
isn't working. I've been
experience
told I'm a dumb
writing?
kid the whole time. Like, what's happening? So it's like cool to be there and help facilitate those like realizations.
And so when you add that layer of ADHD, there's a lot of kids know that they have ADHD when they're
Hmm.
younger, and a lot of them don't find out until they hit college and,
Hmm.
become adults themselves. But what happens, even if you're not diagnosed with ADHD and you don't even know that you do, teachers are very in tune to
Hmm.
their students, and they subconsciously start to accommodate you.
Right.
They help you out. They remind you, don't forget to get your homework done, or don't forget to turn your homework in. Did you put your name on your homework? Those kinds of things
Hmm.
without even thinking about it. And then you go to college and your professors are not doing that stuff for you anymore. And you don't have somebody saying, did you eat this, that, or the other thing? Did you take your meds? Did you do
Hmm.
this? Did you do that? All of those supports are kind of swept away. And I don't know about you, but what I see in the wake of that is I really thought I had my SHIT together, and
Right.
I don't. And I see a lot of fear come in then.
Hmm. Totally. Fear and also like a little bit of panic of like, who am I? Like what? I thought of all the things in life or the world, like thought I had this figured out. And now like what? I have to like study, I have to like work. Like if I don't check the syllabus and like check the deadlines and I don't turn the paper in, like that's a quarter of my grade. And like what? Like there's real consequences that aren't just like, don't forget to do this or don't forget. I have to like take my own meds. And if I like sell them, that means I don't have meds and like I can't function. What? Like all of those real things are coming up that can't be just like swept away.
Absolutely. And then you add to the when you talk about the organizational skills and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff that you have to do, um, keep track of your classes, deal with every professor who has a different personality,
Right.
and making new friends, all of that kind of stuff. There's so many different aspects about college that changes. And what you said was so profound in that all of a sudden we get a chance to just discover who we are. We get
Hmm.
to explore that. And for some people, they thought they knew,
Right.
right? So when you work with those kiddos who are like, I don't know who I am, or I am not the person I thought I was,
Hmm.
what kind of advice do you give?
It's a great question. A lot of time with those kiddos, where I start is like ADHD and perfectionism, because I find that there's a lot of overlap with that. And so the first reaction I usually get is like, "What do you mean? Like, I'm totally type B. I can't find my sunglasses on my head. I'm a perfectionist now. Like, I'm barely getting anything done and like getting to where I'm supposed to be. I'm not a perfectionist." But actually, there's this like yearning thing that happens in ADHD where it's like, it has to be like perfect or it's garbage. It has to be 100% or 0%. So if it's not like the best thing I'm ever going to do, if this isn't the most perfect essay that I've ever constructed in my head, well, then I shouldn't even start it because it's just garbage and terrible and I don't even want to look at it. And just like having three words on the page is disgusting to me. So, like, not even going to do it. So it's this like seeking this perfect, ideal, like expectation that's impossible to reach. But then when we don't reach it, then like beating ourselves up over it and like the cycle starting again. This can also overlap with a lot of like procrastination of like, I need the pressure of like, I'm going to pull the all-nighters or like it is due in 12 hours. So I have to get it all done in 12 hours. And like magically I get it done in 12 hours, which like that can work sometimes, but just not super sustainable. So that's kind of the first place we start of kind of like our expectations of ourselves and kind of deconstructing a little bit of that perfectionism that's often lurking there of like, okay, like what's mediocre? What's like a C plus? Like what can we just like accept and be okay with? And that doesn't have to mean that like we are a C plus human, but like just for this assignment or just for this paper, like getting it done or getting it completed or like even just starting it, kind of starting from there and then working on like integration tools of kind of building that self image and self aspect and then like confidence and assurity in self that like hey, not everything is a reflection on me, because a lot of times folks with ADHD, like every signal is pointing towards that like internal hypothesis, which can be I suck, or I'm a failure, or I'm the best, or I'm amazing, or I'm gonna do that. Like all of these, we're great at pattern recognition. So we're getting all these pieces of the puzzle that's like aligning exactly how we want it to, but sometimes that's not the full picture. And we're only picking out like the square pieces and not all the weird shaped pieces. We're just like throwing those away. And I'm like, but those make part of the puzzle too. Like it's important to incorporate those. So that's kind of like where we start is then like kind of resetting our expectations of self so it's not so like peaks and valleys or like extremes.
Yeah, and I often say to my, like when I'm coaching kids
Hmm.
in that area, I say, where's the cutoff?
Hmm.
Where does it become intolerable? So, like, if it's not an A, what could it be? What would
Right.
be tolerable? Is a D tolerable? Well, no, and then, go through and just what feels tolerable. And I know that that helps a lot of my kids just to be like, okay, yeah, I can tolerate a B,
Mhm.
so I can be okay with that.
Right.
Um, but it is so much pressure at that point. I was working with a client who not only had ADHD, she was also in a top 10 university going for biomedical engineering,
Hmm.
and was 16 years old and getting ready to graduate from college.
Hmm. Just
And
everything. Just add
and
everything
had,
to the
and
mix.
had ADHD, right?
Hmm.
And so you run into these people and you think, if they can pull it off, i- we can pull it off, right?
I guess that's the hope. I would say too, like everyone with ADHD has different strengths. So
Mhm.
sometimes, like I said, sometimes people really knock it out of the park in high school, and sometimes people really struggle. I think sometimes that like structure of school is really like that scaffolding is really helpful for a lot of folks. And it's like, yes, this is great. The expectations are very clear, the consequences are very clear. Okay, I figured out the cheat code to this game. If I just do this and have all my stuff in on time, then like I just get good grades and then I get praised for it. Okay, this all like works for me. Like the system is working. That like there's very clear expectations and rules, and that they find that really comforting and supportive and helpful. When those rules are taken away, or when all that structure is taken away, it's really hard. Other folks, they find that super like confining. Sometimes there can be an oppositional or like a defiant, don't tell me what to do, rah, rah, rah. Like kind of that can happen of like, I want to do things on my own terms. Like, I don't see it that way. That's not how I experience this. Like, what do you mean you're telling me this? This doesn't make sense to me internally. Well, why'd you give this person that grade, but then you did this to me? Like, that's not fair for everybody. It's really like activating and overwhelming to have all of that like structure and expectation and da da. So when that gets wiped away, it can be very freeing and like um just like an abundance of overflowing space for people to be like, oh wait, I can like spread my wings now and really fly. So some people can be super confident and competent at like academic stuff or workplace stuff or things with structure and like really excel there and struggle in other parts of life. And some people can really be like, nope, the structure doesn't work for me. But like if I'm an independent contractor and I do these things and I set all my own schedule and do my own stuff, they're super successful in that way because that's what works best for their brain and like their skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I have found oftentimes is when I start coaching somebody, a college student, because I'm an ADHD coach, we
Mhm.
often start with organization, getting our homework done, doing our, making sure our calendar is right and all that
Mhm.
stuff. But inevitably, and I wonder if it's this way for you too, we come around to social.
Mhm.
And a lot of self-doubt, a
Mhm.
lot of rejection sensitivity, um, and it just a lot of difficulty
Mhm.
coping with socialization. Can
Yeah,
you tell
it's a
me some more about
huge,
that?
yeah, it's a huge like trigger point and like button push for people of like, "Ugh." I think too, a lot of it has to do with like neurodivergent experience of the world and like integration of information. So not only are social stuff like more challenging in certain ways, but also like how societally we're set up to experience social norms or social things, or like your expectation is that you all have your best friends through high school and then they stand next to you at your wedding and then you're friends for life, da, da. But like we don't see that like in our normal lives or in our things all the day or all the time, or like we don't get concrete examples of that. We get that to us in like media or in social media or in like Facebook and all that stuff, but like that's not how friendships or relationships like work for everybody in practice. But what happens, especially with a lot of folks with ADHD, is like that's the expectation. That's what I should be doing. And it'll be this pattern of like friendships falling apart or relationships or like I needed this from this person and they didn't give it to me, or like getting some really harsh feedback. But like every time it happens again, it's not just like, oh man, like another learning experience or all, it's like I suck at this. There's something wrong with me. There's something broken with me because I
Mhm.
can't figure this out and everyone else has it figured out and I don't. Which is not like true or accurate, but like that's the internal sensation or like feeling or message that is happening. So then it's working more of like, hey, we're seeing information in different ways. We're looking for that pattern seeking. We kind of socialize in different ways and need different things from our social interactions and our romantic relationships. All relationships really are different when you have neurodivergence involved. So it's kind of working to like accommodate for those strengths and accommodate for that like integration of things instead of being like, I must fit into the square hole. I must do it. I must do it. It's like, well, how do I find my round hole for my round peg? Like, how do I get this in a way that like it fits and slides easily with not as much like friction or like frustration? But the biggest thing I see with ADHD specifically is the like internalization. So not only are things challenging and difficult and socialization is hard, but like I'm broken. I did something wrong. Everyone else has it figured out, but I don't. Whereas like many people are lonely. Many people struggle to find their connection or their community. Many people are feeling isolated in these current times and ages, but we're not seeing that. No one's posting their like sobbing in the bathroom, mirror at 2 a.m. on their Facebook feed or their Instagram feed. We're only seeing the highlights and not the like day to day.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say, I could keep talking with you for quite a while.
Like, I could talk your ear off. I have lots of things to say.
Absolutely. I'm like, yeah, this is a good conversation. But I want to ask one more question.
Yeah.
And that question would be, I know because we had our little conversation that you yourself have ADHD.
Mhm.
What advice would you give your little ADHD self who is in college or in high school now?
Such a good question. Hmm. I think I would give myself like keep on trucking, keep on going. I talk a lot of times of like since I use a lot of expressive arts, I use a lot of like narrative and metaphor. So like sometimes we're at a crossroads and we don't always have to pick like which path. Like not one path is better than the others. Like sometimes we can sit and sometimes we can consider. And like both paths can be like covered in mist. Like they're covered in fog. You can't see like does one, lead off a cliff? Is one down to the ocean? Is one into a magical fairy forest? You can't see. You're just at the crossroads. So sometimes when we're at the crossroads, we're like, I have to pick, I have to pick, I have to move forward, I have to move forward, I have to go, 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 I have to do it now. I'm so far behind. Whereas like you can sit, you can be, you can consider. And then whichever one we pick, that it's not like, oh, I have to go back, I made the wrong choice, and now I'm in a den of dragons and this is the worst thing ever. That like you find your way even though it's clouded and mist at the time. And it's like where you needed to be and what needed to happen. But like it's okay to sit and it's okay to move forward.
Mm, I love that. It's okay to sit and just
Mhm.
be.
Yeah,
And if listen to my podcasts, you'll notice that like I often say not everything requires an immediate response.
totally.
We
Not
can
everything has an action step. Our
absolutely.
brains can be very action oriented. That's like, what do I do? Okay, great. Emily, you talked to me all about my feelings. What do I do about it? It's like, you don't have to do anything about it.
It's amazing. Yeah, that really, really rings true for me and
Hmm.
a lot of the people that I work with.
Hmm.
Well, Emily,
Hmm.
I think we have had a great conversation.
Me too. It's been lovely speaking with you today.
You too. And I think that we have a lot of things that crisscross in our lives, and we probably could have talked for 2 or 3 hours.
Probably. I could have talked your ears off.
Absolutely, which is just fine.
Yeah.
But since we don't have unlimited time,
Hmm.
we'll just say that I hope that all of our butterflies on the wall who've been
Hmm.
listening in have enjoyed our conversation, and I hope that they will like and subscribe and do all the things. And I would like to just throw out there that maybe sometime we could have Emily come back again and
I would
have
love to. Yeah. If y'all
conversation.
want to hear more of my ramblings, just let us know.
But well, see, because this is an ADHD podcast, and
Yeah.
what we do
Hmm.
is ramble. I mean, when I
That's our superpower, Janine.
absolutely, absolutely, and I was like, what would be better than a podcast for an ADHD person than
Hmm.
a conversational one that just goes wherever it goes.
Right.
So that's what I did. I said, hey, let's do that.
Yeah. And you accomplished it. Look what we can do. Look at all the possibilities.
All the possibilities. Well, thank you again, Emily. I really appreciate it. And all our butterflies on the wall, we'll see you next time.